I've started recording every Mythic Plus key this season, and in these episodes I'll go over the ups and downs of my journey towards getting that juicy sought after 0.1% title. I am back from my week holiday and I hope you all didn't miss me too much, and I hope you had a great Easter. Right, straight into this episode, we will have two different Affix rotations as I did a couple of keys before I went away, tried to squeeze them in, and then I've done a couple of keys since I've gotten back, which is on Fortified. We're kicking off though with a Rise 27 on Tyrannical, and I'm still struggling to get it bumped up from a 26. We do the pretty standard first pull, and we only really ran into trouble when we pulled the Slivery Snake mini-boss, where the monk gets absolutely clotheslined, and then the priest gets Darth Vader sand choked from the snake, as the others didn't want to kick it, and I always use and save my kick for corroding volley because that has wiped the group too many times. Then after that we pulled Maiden, and the monk gets clipped with the orb coming back into the boss, and it is deceiving sometimes. You'd think that when it does come back it stops underneath the boss's feet, but sometimes it goes past that, so yeah, definitely not been on the receiving end of that once or twice. Moving on to where we deplete the dungeon sadly, and it wasn't even the orbs this time. You might have thought that if you watched the previous episodes, but we get a pair of dispels out, and then the paladin is the last one to be dispelled, and he just takes down and dies. Thankfully though, the monk CRs him, and then a bit further into the fight, the tank is getting a frontal on him, and the monk just stands on top of him and gets clobbered by it. Don't think it was his day in this dungeon with avoidable stuff, and because now we're 4 men and we lost a healer who can dispel us, we ultimately wipe, and that is the key. I did a 28-4, which I didn't record because I've already done that key, and I managed to get a 29 Everbloom. We are sweating, boys. 29 tyrannical Everbloom. I think Everbloom might honestly be the hardest dungeon this season. So many people are struggling to get this key done on both of the rotations, and currently, even now, this is after a week as well, there are still only 2 Enhancement Shamans who have timed a 29 Everbloom. I know one of them is definitely in a stacked team, and I'm probably thinking the other one is the same as well. But we try anyway. We start the key, and the tank's internet cable got yanked by something, I don't know what, maybe a cat, dog, frog, who knows. But his priest was the duo with him, so he let us know that he is coming back. About 20 seconds later the tank comes back. Then we do basically the standard pull. First packs up to the first boss were all pretty clean. I was just trying my best to CC and do as much damage as I could in these high target count pulls. And then unfortunately the last pack before the tree, we had the tank go down to cast. So in turn I ended up going down, but once I saw the tank had died I quickly moved out, put cap totem, started moving back in. The tank also got CR'd as I was still moving out. And then I run back in thinking the tank had aggro again, and my cap totem still hadn't gone off. So I'm guessing that it was about to go off, but I end up getting meleeed. And then I do the Teadrinker special as always, where I ank, and then I die. And this may be the fastest death I've ever had after anking. If you didn't watch my frame, you probably only think I died once. Witherbark was easy peasy, and we topped boss damage. Feels good, man. We then do a mega pull afterwards with a lot of casters, and a few of them aren't stacked nicely in the clump, so they're just free casting in the back on the tank or choking someone out. So we end up losing the tank and we full wipe. With bolstering as well, it's really hard for the tank to keep themselves alive without basically constantly CCing all the mobs. But after that we clear the rest of the trash, and then we skip the A-bomb to get to council, and I still can't for the life of me get this bloody jump done on this ledge here. So thankfully I get gripped by my saviour, the priest. We start the boss and nearly get down Tilu, but the charge ends up going off and it ends up bringing down the tank, and they hit really hard and they come out every 10 seconds, so the tank needs to be topped at all times basically. And then because we end up full wiping, and with the previous wipe we just decided to call it there because we don't have enough time for the dungeon anymore. But I'm honestly happy with how the dungeon went, so we move on to the next one. As you're all aware, I am someone who does not give up easily, so we run it straight back again with my 28 Everbloom. And I will pre-say, there are more Everblooms to come, but they weren't all bad, so bear with me. We do the first big pull and we pull in the A-bomb as well, as we have really good priority damage. I just do funnel things as always. We rack up 6 stacks of bolstering in the pull, and then we have a berserker randomly go off a melee right on top of me and cleave me in half, so I end up dying. And I don't really understand why, because the priest was out in range, so maybe you can let me know. We then go to the right with another big pull, and the tank dies setting it up, so we full wipe. We then do another pull, and as the pack starts to dip low, we end up losing the tank again to cast, so full wipe. We then clear that area and then we move to the left, and we do another big pull, and the tank goes down again, and that is Le Brick. Again we run it back, but this time it goes good. I did miss the first 2 minutes of recording as my shadow blade decided to turn itself off, no idea why. And with the first half of the dungeon, we're basically just trying our best to keep up, because we start doing more consistent damage in the second half when there's fewer target counts. And we only had 1 death clearing to Witherbark, where again we managed to be top damage on Witherbark, but it's just a really good fight for enhancement. After that, as we have a sneaky rogue, we easily skip past and go straight to council, which is really handy, where we actually pull 4 assistants upstairs with the boss, which is a really good idea by the tank, because it gives me and the rogue funnel, and then we easily blast it all down, and we blast council down as well, and your boy was top down again, cranking. After council, we pull the pack just before council, as most groups do this now, and as we're running up the stairs to the third area, we get hit by another bolstered berserker. I honestly think they're racist. Third area we cleared well, other than the rogue getting back-to-back casts on him. He had an arcane blast and a frostbolt, and the DH did have kick, but he just didn't use it. We then pull the third boss, where the second Cinderbolt Storm takes out the rogue and the paladin. But on to more important things, look at the moves on this cow, holy moly. We then have 2 more deaths throughout the fight to Cinderstorm by the rogue, who had cloak on one of them, and I don't think he pressed feint for either of them honestly, as I generally don't see rogues dying in my keys because they stack so much verse. Then moving on to harder boss Yalnu, which goes smoothly up until around 12%, where we get an ad spawn and myself and the rogue go down. I ran out of defensive, so I ended up just ticking out. Thankfully we did have a CR, so they ended up getting me up because I do more damage on this boss. We get an ad spawn at 0%, and we just choose to push the boss because we're not going to have time to kill the ad. I almost go down again, and the paladin does go down, but on the last tick. And then we managed to push through and we actually complete the dungeon. We did a whopping 407k overall, juicy, nearly beating out the paladin, which I did not expect to with this massive heavy AoE dungeon. And we gained plus 11, so win-win. Silly me forgot, because it wasn't recorded manually, that I actually did a 28 Waycrest and not a 28 fall to get my 29 Everbloom. So, I did do it on stream, so we do have the footage, which you'll see now, and just remember this is the key before I did all the Everblooms. So, you've already been spoiled on the result, but come watch a shaman somehow do a 28 tyrannical Waycrest Manor. As always on tyrannical, we send witches straight away with lust, and we also pulled an extra soul on top, and your boy was blasting. No deaths on this boss as well, and having 3 cursor spells for this boss honestly made a huge difference on this fight. We had 2 deaths in the courtyard. One was from a giga bolstered infected thorn on a paladin who got 1 shot, and then the other was the paladin again. He ended up ripping aggro on the start of another pull later on. But after clearing the courtyard, it was then onto the infamous Soulbound Goliath, where nightmares are made. This is honestly make or break for me. 99% of my Waycrest mana deplete on this boss. Thankfully though, we did have a mage who can do the Soulthorn tech, and a paladin who is great on this fight because they got bubble, bop, yeah, you name it, they're good. This fight though was a roller coaster of emotions with lots of lows and a few highs. The mage was absolutely cranking on this boss, which was pretty unheard of. I don't really play with a lot of good mages, so it was nice to see. I was saving my Foudroie trinket for the thorn before the burning brush proc, so even if the thorn didn't go on me, at least I was using the absorb shield on burning brush. Right after we survived that burning brush, we got a soul thorns which was on the mage thankfully, and again, lightning struck right underneath the boss and proc burning brush again right after the other one. Like, I don't understand. I went from never having this happen to having it happen way too much now. I want to go back to just being oblivious to this even being a thing. It's so bloody troll. Thankfully though, we did recover. The next burning brush, my trinket is about to come up, and just as soul thorns is coming out, I'm pressing it on the millisecond, but unfortunately I get thorns, I don't end up getting my trinket off. So I end up going down, and then the paladin goes down because he's getting absolutely Mike Tysoned by the ghosts. Thankfully I had reincarn and we had a CR, so we go back to 5. We then get another soul thorns which goes on me, the weak link. I had used stone skin, I am set in Ghost Wolf, but I am at the mercy of my team. And I died, and the thorn was on 7% HP. Feels bad. Thankfully though, the next soul thorn went on the mage, and we killed the boss. We had really crap RNG with the thorns mostly going on me and the paladin, but the biggest hurdle is now cleared. We clear all of Rose room, no issues, and then we head downstairs to Matron Alma, who even on tyrannical has so much HP, pretty bonkers. So we did our best to funnel her down just to speed it up. We then head even further downstairs where we're on the last pack before the Waycrest with all the casters, so pretty spicy pack. We clear everything down to the last mob. I've got only my kick available, we've got Soul Volley just about to be cast, and it is casting. So I hold it as long as possible to kick just so everyone else can get their CD back for the Soul Bolt cast because they hurt and it's bolstering. Soul Bolt comes out, Paladin has his kick, Paladin lets me die. I and everyone else in the party was not too happy about this as it's an easy kick, there's nothing else going on, just kind of troll. We then res me and we pull the Waycrest where the Paladin dies instantly to aggro once Lord Waycrest jumps over. Also, troll. Another thing on the boss fight, if you're playing range or shaman, you can do a focus target on Lady Waycrest, and then when you're close enough you can kick her Wreck and Cord cast, so if you're in the area, kick it. If you're sending P-Wave like I do to funnel, you do that as well. But it is quite fiddly, so be wary not to get stuck there trying to kick it with all the swirlies like I definitely have not done. We end up bringing down the Waycrest, and then just before Goric Tool, my boy Felly in stream did a song request for Robert Miles' Children. Great song, would recommend to listen to it, 8 out of 8. And then it's onto our boy Goric. It was a breeze. We topped down throughout the entire dungeon, which was quite surprising. And we only got a measly +6, which is just crap. For all of our suffering throughout all the Waycrest Manors we've done, +6. Yikes. But I am really happy getting this key done on a 28 as it was a pain to try and complete. These keys now are when I got back from holiday, so we're now on fortified, and by God, do I hate Sanguine, let me tell you. We're in a 28 rise though, and it's a pretty tight timer, but this priest was absolutely cranking in this opening area, and we honestly played it really well with the rest of the group. We had 0 deaths up until tier, where we were on 6% and the boss does 2 dispels with getting through a shield, and we have the soak and the druid just doesn't make it in time, so the priest ends up going down. I did have to use my defensives on that last soak on tier, so we end up going up the stairs here to pull this pack, and it is a pretty sketchy pack. It's really hard hitting. A lot of the time it's made difficult because you use most of your cooldowns on tier, so yeah, it's definitely a juicy one for fortified. Thankfully though, we are all hybrids and the druid was absolutely cranking heals, so we managed. Moving past the gauntlet where we definitely didn't get sent back once or twice. We then lusted the double dragons as you'd normally do. We then cleared the area below and headed straight over to Morchi, where we actually had a really clean boss fight, which is very unusual for me. Normally we end up having a few random deaths here or there, or we go to the wrong place, or tank dies to frontal. So really nice play by us. And I quite like going this way, or this route, for Rise, because you end up getting your lust back for the Demolisher at Battlefield, which is a super janked up mob on fortified, so you definitely want to try have lust there, which thankfully we did. Over at the battlefield area, we had 2 deaths to the consecration / earthquake mob because honestly, it's probably one of the hardest hitting abilities from a mob this season. You need to be pre-moving because if you don't and it lands under your feety, you're just straight dead. After that though, we win the battle on the field and head over to Deos, who has eluded us Rio gains far too many times because of the timer. And this time the timer is still within reach, just over 4 minutes as we get there. And we actually get it done with 24 seconds left, so still pretty close. It just goes to show that the rise timer, even though we had a pretty clean run, can definitely take you right up to the full timer. But that does take us to 3583 points, so closing in on 3.6k pog. Instantly timing a key once we got back from holiday, just how we do. And of course, easy top damage for your boy. After we timed our 28 rise, we got another chance at a 29 Everbloom, and again, incredibly hard key to pug. You really need a group realistically, but I don't have one, so we make do with pugs. Also, 2 29 keys in one episode for an Enhancement Shaman. What is this sorcery? We went big at the start and pulled an A-bomb as well, which we funneled the ever-loving crap out of, whilst the Ret and the Lock get to have more fun. Sag. Our dreams for this key unfortunately were short-lived, as Sanguine in this dungeon is a pain in the ass. We also only had 2 deaths to Stings and Berserkers, so we played it pretty clean as well. But we did decide to call the key after Witherbark as we were way over the timer. Not having more ways to deal with Sanguine is a pain, or some form of heal reduction, but I probably spent a good hour forming this group and there's not really a lot of people attempting the keys at this level. We run it straight back with the 28, and this one goes really smooth again. We didn't have any deaths, so better than last time, clearing up to Witherbark. Afterwards, we weren't on the best timer when we did kill him, slightly better than last time. We move on to Council, where I still cannot do this bloody skip. I think I might actually need to head into a heroic dungeon and practice this, because if I don't have a priest like I did in these last 2 times, I'd be screwed. After the jumping shenanigans, we bring down 2 of the council members and pull the pack behind with the last one up. It's just a nice way of basically doing 2 birds with 1 stone, plus it's also an extra target for us, so more damn. We then head up the ramp to the spicy area where we lose our 0 death counter, and we gain 2 more from the Cinderball AoE because it hits like a truck on fortified. The druid didn't bark himself on the first death, so probably could have avoided that. And then the priest died too, not sure if he pressed flash of light or fade. I probably need to start putting these on the Omni CD bars just so I can see what people are pressing. I then also go down to a Frostball and a Cinderball AoE, as because we lost the priest, we didn't have another kick available. So yeah, I get comboed. We then pull the spicy triple mage pack, which is always rough without 5 kicks. This is where it's nice having the Mistweaver. Generally, you get 2 people on the Pyromancer and 2 people on the Arcane Mage, and then you just let a Frostbolt go through and you just press a defensive. Even with a Frostbolt going through on the Druid, it one-shots him on a 28. Probably because he didn't press Bear Form or Ironbark though. Thankfully, we had no more deaths from a mage, which I thought we would honestly, as this boss can be quite hard. You got the spheres, you got the pull back into the fire, you got the massive AoE takes on the Firestorm, but we finish her off, no deaths. Then we head to Yalnu, and the timer is looking pretty grim with all the random deaths in the last area and then the Sanguine management throughout the dungeon. It's just a really rough dungeon. Unfortunately though, we were about to cap the timer. We did try our best, we got the boss to 23%, basically hit the timer. I told everyone to stop because I really want this key done. I still only have a 26 done on fortified as well, so I want to try this again on the 27. It is annoying missing out on the timer. We were pretty close. I'm pretty, proud of where we got to. Would have been nice timing the key, but it's what it is. I'm going to quickly mention though that before the dungeon had started, the tank had made a few comments regarding enhancement and basically shaman, questioning whether or not I was going to survive certain parts of the dungeon, especially the 3rd area where you saw a lot of other people die. And I've stated in the past, I've not actually hit the wall yet where our survivability is the one limiting the group from completing the dungeon. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it is tilting, as a lot of people do share the same mindset as this guy, so that's probably a factor in terms of why I don't get invites. But it is what it is. We have to keep pushing through, do these dungeons, prove to people that we're not actually the one limiting, so hopefully we can get more invites in the future. We are not a quitter, so we tried again one key level below on the 27. I was struggling to find a group for a while in Foudroie for this key. I eventually ended up getting the rogue, and once I got the rogue we waited another 20 minutes in queue, and then he mentioned he also had a 27 Everbloom, and basically just to take the people who look good, which was the Guardian Druid and the Mistweaver duo, and then the Ret. It's not a good comp for us, but I kind of trusted what he said because it was his key. I wouldn't have personally done it for my own key, but yeah, we tried it. It is scuffed, like I said, because we have no one to bait the Arcane Orb in the third boss area, and then Witherbark is going to be scuffed because we're all melee. And I just want to say, when we did start this dungeon, the rogue was absolutely cranking damage. It's probably the most damage I've seen from a rogue. He was sustaining 1 million on the opening pull, and then he was just consistently blasting pack to pack, so good job to him. We cleared to Witherbark. On Witherbark itself, it was scuffed, and because I only have little T-Rex arms like Max Holloway, UFC reference right there if you don't know, we had the roots basically blocking parts of the boss, so I couldn't actually maneuver around a lot, so I lost a lot of uptime doing damage to the boss, but that didn't stop us from killing it. After that, we cleared the right hand side and we went to go skip with Shroud, but the rogue cancelled it somehow? ? No idea why that happened, maybe he accidentally pressed a button, but basically anyone who wasn't already invisible died. We get rezzed up, we kill Council easily, and then we head upstairs where it all falls apart. Remember when I mentioned at the start of the dungeon that we had a pretty scuffed comp because we had no ranged player? Well, can you guess what's going to happen? We pull the Arcane Mage and he sends a tactical nuke into all of us as we had no one baiting. I assume the Mistweaver would have baited, but I quickly noticed as the projectile was being cast, I quickly sidestepped. Everyone else didn't though, they all died. But the rogue didn't want to continue after that, a lot of blaming was going on, and that's the brick. Now on to our last key, which is our own 27 Everbloom, and this one went pretty scuffed. I'll keep it as short as I can because you've seen a lot of Everblooms in this episode, so apologies. Opening pull, I do end up dying twice to the Stingers. We only had one Dispel in the party and my Poison Cleansing Totem, so unfortunately I get the debuff when my Poison Cleansing Totem isn't up, or I don't get dispelled as well. And because we had multiple Stingers in these pulls, which was a semi-silly idea because we only had one guaranteed dispel, it's going to cause some deaths, which it did. I did also take a Frosty K as I played with one before, but I thought, because of my off-meta little heart, I thought, why not? Let's see what you can do in an Everbloom. Thankfully him and the priest were absolutely blasting the AoE, and then I was just doing enhanced funnel things. This dungeon I also took the knockback instead of the knock up so we can deal with Sanguine a bit better, because most of the time in these Everblooms we just lost a lot of time to Sanguine. We go right side in a massive pull where the DK goes down to aggro off the rip, and then we end up ninja pulling after a few of the mobs die where I yeet them trying to knock them out of Sanguine, so yeah, we end up wiping and that is on me. We clear further in and Witherbark, but the timer is essentially shot, and there is one last thing to put the nail in the coffin for this dungeon, is we ninja pull the same A-bomb again. Not sure who did it, we were all pretty stacked up so can't really blame anyone, but that sums up the key. But I'm hoping on the next fortified we finally get rid of our 26 Everbloom, but we shall see. That is the end, ladies and gentlemen, of the episode, and I'm going to quickly mention, as you're probably all very well aware, Season 4 got announced on the 23rd of April, so we really do not have long to push for the title. Honestly though, I'd be pretty happy with 3600 and we're really close as well, but the title would be even better, but 3600 would be pretty good. I'm super happy with my progress so far this season. Honestly, I think we smashed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me push with many of the lows and a few of the highs. And I will be doing this again next season, so you don't have to worry, you will see my misery and the wins. Hope you enjoyed the keys this episode though, and I shall catch you in the next one. Peace.